differently. And so I'm a channel for ascension. And what's happened is that I blend all of that scientific, let me just press OK here, it's on my screen. Um, all the scientific energies and the scientific knowledge that I've been given over the years and blend it with my direct connection to my channels. And many of them are ascended masters, many of them are galactic beings. And as my frequency has changed, the beings that work with me have changed as well. So that's what I do. So I help people to align fully to why they're here. I help them to align to what is the rock in the shoe. What is that rock? What is that rock showing us? And why is it there? That our soul is talking to us all the time through our body, and our body is the barometer for our soul. So I help people to heal on that level. And I know you have a disclaimer, but my disclaimer is I'm not a doctor and I don't claim to heal or cure. But what I do is help people to open the door so that they are ready to heal themselves. And by being a facilitator and an ascension channel, I'm a teacher as well and an author and all sorts of things. I allow people to be in that space so that they can heal themselves. And I think it's really important to say that.
It's beautiful. Absolutely, it is. You did start in an interesting field, and I want
Yeah.
to go a little bit back, if we can, to kind of your
Mm.
origin story. What were you doing, and how did some of this information start kind of coming into your daily life?
Well, what do you mean from the perspective of when I was working in the field of my traditional field? Yeah.
Correct.
So in my traditional field, I was working in child protection. So I am actually a specialist in trauma. And
Mm,
so I help people to release trauma. And I worked in the field of child protection. And at that time, I was doing my postgraduate master's degree. And I had an experience where a friend of mine took their life. And they came to me in the night, and I'd never had any experience like that before. It was my first awakening that I can remember of anyway. It was my first awakening. And it was an awakening that took me down a journey where I realized that we were so much more than our mind and body. And I tried to disprove it. I tried to disprove that, we were not soul, we were not spirit, because I was a scientist and I was very much for evidence and so on, and statistics. And I couldn't disprove it. And that led me on the journey of actually being a medium. And I ended up working in the platforms in London, standing there giving evidence of survival, with an audience. And that started my public speaking career that I didn't even know I was going to do. And it was that balance. It was that kind of coming from a traditional background and then being able to see spirit, hear spirit, feel spirit. And it just steamrolled from there.
So you were an evidentiary medium, is that correct?
I used to be, yeah, and I still
It
am. I
used to
just
be,
don't.
yeah.
I just don't stand on platforms and do it.
So what I want
Yeah.
to bring up for people, which is
Mm,
really interesting, I mean, it goes to where you're just not someone who says, "Oh, I'm hearing all this stuff." You've had a scientific background and a background where you had
yeah,
to scrutinize what was coming in a big
absolutely.
way. Explain a little bit about. I know you're not doing that now, but as a former evidentiary medium or someone who was on
Mm,
the platforms doing that, what does that mean? Some people have never heard that
sure.
term, but it is an
Yeah,
important one.
I mean, I used to teach it and so on, and people do come through in sessions. So when we do big, deep healing sessions, often relatives will pop in and I'll see them because I'm clairvoyant. So I see them and I hear them, and they give me help because they'll say, "This is what's going on. Can you clear that? That's an ancestral lineage." So basically, what a medium is somebody who bridges the energy between those that have passed over. So it's not
Mm.
someone that does tarot necessarily or something like that, or oracle cards. It's somebody that actually hears, knows, or sees spirit and is able to bring forward evidence that nobody else would know that that person would know. So say I'm talking to you, Darius, you had a reading with me. The person coming through is nothing to do with me, but they're all to do with you. And so they would give evidence of maybe how you knew them, what they passed with, whether they wore glasses, what they, who they were, their character, and
Right.
so on.
Right.
And then they would give a message. It's very different to a psychic reading where it's just a flow of consciousness of messages. It's actually evidential, and I like to call it evidence of survival, evidence that we go on, and evidence that we are still
Wow.
here.
And
Mm.
what's interesting to me about that is, in many respects, it's one of those things where something comes up that, you would have no way of knowing, and the
Yeah,
person on the other end is like, Wow, how'd you know that?" Or, "Oh my God, there's no
yeah.
way she could know that. This absolutely is real," or "This other side is real," or "This information is real." Whether we're talking about ascension and everything else, it's
Hmm.
super important to differentiate between something that has some basis in a provable, valid bit of information versus, well, I'm just like, getting this thing, who knows what it is. And
Sure.
I think that's what makes you super, super unique. Now, what started coming forward recently, I think is really important, I think for a lot of
Hmm.
people, and this is our God self and aligning to this
Sure.
divine flow. Tell us a little bit about that. When did this start coming in? What was this? What were the messages of this? And why is this
Yeah.
maybe important now?
I think what's really, really important is trust. And one of the things that we're going through right now, and we have been, I think, over since 2020, really, the time of inner vision and 2020 vision that we had to kind of awaken our sight to. And I think since then, people have been realizing that where is it that I don't trust myself? And so when we remember wholeheartedly who we truly are, there is nothing not to trust and there is nothing to fear in this life. And I think that the time of 2020 and so on showed us the fears that we might have about ourselves and about the world. And now is the time to realize that there is nothing to fear. So coming into our God self or our goddess self, whatever we want to call it, is a remembrance of who we truly are. And so the guides chip in all the time with me. So they're just saying to me, and to remember that there's nothing outside of us that is the answer, that we are the Holy Grail, that we are the divinity itself, and that there isn't a doctor, there isn't a person, there isn't anyone outside of us that has the answers. They're just all facilitators to allow us to remember who we truly are and why we're here.
Wow, that is very interesting. I mean, I agree with that. What
Mm.
have you found that holds people back from this? It sounds like a obvious goal or an obvious
Hmm.
aspiration that
Yeah.
so many people have wanted to attain throughout history. What do you see as a medium that holds people back from that?
Sure. When I look into the field, so I get shown what's going on when I look into the field, and I get kind of like a video screen. And what I often see is the contracts and the agreements to religious lifetimes. And so we're kind of set up in a way to think that God is a man, and God, maybe sits on a cloud and judges us and tells us what to do and so on. And actually, what that is a misconception, because actually we are a spark of God. We are a spark of
Mm,
source. Without going into religion, we're able to see that we are that spark of light. And I remember years ago, the guides tried to help me understand this. This was in my 20s when I became a medium. And they said it's almost like an atom. And there are so many aspects of that atom, and they all come together as a big particle. And that, if we can look at it that way, we can say, and I like to say it as, if you imagine there's a big cloud, and this is the
mm,
biggest part of you, and then just a little bit of that, the spark of that is you now in this human form. And yeah, thanks.
uh-huh.
And sorry, it just reminded me of something. And so to remember that, and this is really key, yeah, thank you. We're not just here in our human, we're actually in the non physical at the same time. So we are in non physical as soul, as experience, as source, and we're also in physical. And I think that we perhaps were led to believe that there was something outside of us, but actually there is no separation with us and the divinity that we are. And, you are me, Darius, and I am you, and everyone here is a reflection of that. And we're all a reflection of that source light. We just have different forms that we come in and different reasons for being here to share our light with the world. But we are actually all this unified field of consciousness in physical form.
Yeah, 100%. It's so interesting that you see the things
Hmm.
that lock us into struggle because I think that the real
Yeah.
key to breaking out of this is yes, there's that idea, right? And
Hmm.
humanity has wanted to attain that. But when someone can go in and see where the hangups are, where the hooks
Hmm.
are, and help someone to overcome that, I mean, now you actually have literally like a balloon being untethered from the
Yeah.
ground. You know where the ropes are that you can release and let go and let that
Hmm.
thing fly. Why do you say let the divine flow come rushing in? I don't know if you said that, but it came up through kind of going through between some of the materials.
I think
Let
you,
the
yeah.
divine flow come rushing in. So, what?
I think you kind of formulated that as well,
Oh,
Darius.
okay,
But I
did I?
get, yeah.
Yeah.
But I went with it. It was fine. But I suppose what it is if you imagine a dam in a river, and this dam in the river stops a flow, doesn't it? And so when we release that dam, and it could be the past lives that we were talking about, it could be ancestral lineage, it could be childhood experiences, it can be, lifetimes when we have been in other experiences, other planets, and so on. When we release the dam of that, that allows the river to flow. And so, what you're saying about the divine rushing in, the divine's actually already there. It's just that it allows the expansion of our flow. And I know before we actually came on the hour, you were talking about what is it that you want to have more of in your life? You were saying to the audience, what do you want to have more of in your life? What do you want to create? And really, what this does is it allows that flow of who we truly are to create. And we've all noticed that, the more we are in our peace, the more we're in our vibration of expansion, the more our world changes and the more that we align fully to why we're here.
What does it look like in someone's daily life if they are not necessarily connected to this divine flow or this God self? How does life kind of
Sure.
organize organize? How does reality organize itself when we are
Yeah.
disconnected? I'm curious what you've seen.
So we're never disconnected, but what happens is we've forgotten. So our
Mm,
perception is that we're disconnected. So we
okay.
have a perceived disconnection. When I worked with veterans for many years, one of the things that I noticed was that, and veterans with PTSD, for example, I noticed that they all felt that they were completely disconnected from their true sense of who they were from the shock and the trauma they experienced. And so when we have that remembering, and that remembering starts to happen gradually, 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 we start to remember, our guides start to get stronger, we start to have more trust for who we are, our life starts to transform in the sense of a mirror. So if we can imagine that the mirror of our life is a reflection of perhaps how we feel connected to our source self, our divinity, and who we truly are. So it's not that there's anything wrong with anyone. And I really want to say that very clearly. It's not that you need fixing. It's just that you need to come into that remembrance of who you truly are. And as you do that, what happens is you get shown. And so I don't know if anyone has had this recently, but there's been quite a lot of karmic astrology. I'm an astrologer
Mhm.
as well. So it's the full moon actually right now. We're in the full moon actually right now as we do this call. And this is a time where we're really looking at what's coming up right in front of us. And so that is the mirror of our life. So what is being shown to us? And this week was very much about communication with the Gemini full moon. So, where is it that we're looking at that? But generally, we look at our bank accounts, we look at our relationships, we look at our physical body, which is the barometer for our soul. So our soul is talking to us via our physical body. And I am a meta health practitioner, so I work with metaphysics of dis-ease. So I work from the science perspective of that. So I'm talking from a place of understanding how the body works. I'm a naturopath as well. So, I'm coming from that science perspective. But from a spiritual perspective, as the soul is trying to talk to us, the body is showing the message if we're not listening. Yeah. Not that
Ah,
we're
yes.
bad, not that we're good, not that, but we're just not hearing it and we're not in full alignment. So the more that our mirror changes, the more we're remembering who we truly are. And that's really about trust and peace, I would say. I'd say the more, I don't know if you agree with this, Darius, but over the time of doing this work with ourselves and remembering who we are and living our truth, we become so much more peaceful and we step much more fully into trust.
I do. I
Yeah.
do agree with that completely.
Mm.
What would you say, and we are going to get to some callers, maybe there is
Yeah.
something that is lingering or you feel like is kind of
Yeah.
there in the field and you want some help? What are the
Definitely.
misconceptions about opening to divine flow that you see? Or as we might say, like this, embodying this detachment
Yeah.
of the old stories. What are the misconceptions? A lot of people think, oh, it's going to be hard. It's going to, no one's going to understand me. What do you find as big misconceptions?
I don't know whether I see it as a misconception. I see it more as I think sometimes people want it now in this moment. And it's like, right, I step fully into it and that's it. And it's almost like walking through a car wash and everything is cleared, right? It's not like that. It's like a journey that we go on. And as we start to be more empowered in our journey and start to take self-responsibility for what's showing up, we're not blaming somebody else for something that's happened.
Mm,
We're not saying that person did this to me or that shouldn't have happened or I should have done this. We're starting to say, oh, wow, that's interesting. Isn't that interesting how that has come into my experience? Isn't that interesting that I feel such a charge on that emotion with that
yes.
person? And then we start to see that and say, wow, actually, I start to do that compassion work, that inner compassion work for myself. And that starts to change. And then we start to see that we're responsible for what's happening. And then we become so much more aligned to the remembrance of who we are, because we are a soul having a human expression, but we still have to be human and we still have to have fun with that, and be embodied with it. We're not all up in the source because what's the point of being here? Here is to experience the physical. It's here to experience fun and joy and how to express ourselves. So I think sometimes people are much more, I just want to be source and sitting on a mountain, yeah, and not do anything with the physical. Yeah, thanks. I will say that. And I'm also being reminded that sometimes what happens is we're not grounded in the physical, and then it's really difficult for us to bring in the abundance of our birthright. And that I see all the time, where people are very, very connected. So I look at the field, I can see they're really connected, their guides are around them really, really, really clearly, but they're completely floating off the earth. And it's because
Mm.
they've got, some childhood experiences where they feel scared to be here, perhaps growing in the womb, perhaps as soon as they came into this world. I get shown different video screens depending on who I'm working with. And I can see that. And as soon as we start to heal those parts, we start to become more embodied into our God self, because we're in our human form and we're in our truth of who we are. Does that answer your question?
It does. It
Yeah.
does. Because one of the things that I think we're getting into here is this real truth that like we actually
Mm.
are this already, right? It's just
Yeah.
there's things that for some reason we are not we don't need anymore, but we're still kind of like have our focus on that, and
Yeah.
that makes us believe that that one little thing is all we are, and yet if we can just untether, then it's like we realize there's so much more. Okay, I want to ask you, what are some of the examples? Because what's really unique is you can
Mm.
see into the energy field. And I asked folks,
Yeah.
would you like Susan to look into your energy field? What are some of the things you've seen in people's energy field, and I'm going to
Oh
kind
my
of ask
goodness.
you in a few areas, right? Like let's say
Okay.
with abundance challenges,
Okay.
what are
Yep.
we'll go there first, then we'll get into other things.
Oh yeah.
Abundant. What are
That's
some little things
yeah.
you see with abundance? And everyone just listen in.
Yeah.
I may have it, you may have it. This is super cool. The first time we can actually ask, "Hey, what is going on in that sometimes unseen world for most of us when someone has a block?" Susan's going to tell us.
Absolutely. And it's always about our connection to Mother Earth. So we
Oh,
have this to Mother and to Mother Earth. So
oh.
quite often we'll have resentments, we'll have anger, we'll have feelings about our mother, which is held in our heart field. What happens is that
Mm,
stops the flow of abundance coming in, but it's also connected to Mother Earth, which is connected to our human physicality. So we cannot receive if we have a line of resentment in our field, and we cannot receive if we're not connected to Mother Earth. So we can be connected to our source, our channel, our guides, but not connected to our physicality. It's really hard to bring receiving through. And I've noticed, I mean,
wow.
I've done thousands and thousands of sessions over the years, and I've noticed really, really key things are healing those parts of us that felt scared of being human, afraid of being human, problems with our mother. You know, when we heal those
Mm,
parts, we're truly accepting the receiving. And it's the divine feminine, the divine masculine. You know, it's and not necessarily as a woman or a man, because we have both within us, but actually when we're in our divine feminine, we can receive.
right.
And
Wow.
yeah.
I'm going to ask everyone question.
Mm,
How is your relationship with mom? Or how do you kind
yeah.
of remember that relationship? And I suspect because our mother at some level is the first caregiver,
Yeah.
and probably the first one to feed us in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not always, but depending on how that was done. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So wow, thank you for it's like a
Mm,
laser, right? Everyone's like, well, I'm not abundant, maybe because of this or that, and it's like, nope,
yeah.
you went right to the core. And everyone could be a
Yeah.
little different. That's why you want Susan maybe to look in. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to another one.
Mm,
Another one.
go ahead.
What about
I'm getting
oh
hot
boy,
now.
I know. What
My
about
guides whew.
I want to say health, but I know that's such a broad
Yeah,
topic.
you
What
can
are the
though.
most common things you're seeing when somebody is not optimal or vital? Let's just say that, right? Some of the things you
Hmm.
see that affect people's
Yeah.
body well-being.
So if we think about the endocrine system in the body, what's really interesting is that there is an energy center or chakra that is connected to all of those endocrine glands. And so one of the major things that I see, and at the moment quite a lot, is a problem with the thyroid, this piece here, which is where our higher heart is. Okay.
Mm.
And when
Here
we've
too.
given our power away, we've given our power away. And as we give our power away, we're actually, this chakra here, our higher heart, actually is starting to close down. I don't know if anyone's medical here, they might have heard of, as we get older, which tends to be a thing that people say, as we get older, the thyroid and the thymus actually starts to contract. It's actually because we've given our power away. So as we start to pull
Wow.
our power back, which is one of my favorite pieces of work, we start to pull our power back, we actually start to expand that part of our endocrine system. And of course, it starts at the adrenals on the top of the kidneys, and it goes up, right up to the pineal gland, which is our light center, our center to light. So it's very interesting that if we give our power away, this bit gets a bit blocked. And of course, this is our higher heart. This is our part that we're putting out to the collective, to consciousness. So we need to heal that. But there are lots of things that show up at the moment, especially where we're going through this full moon experience. There are a lot of people that are very, very, very challenged at the moment, let's say. in their physical bodies, many people. And so what the body is trying to do, this massive time of expansion, is trying to release anything that is not a match. And it's a very
Oh,
exciting journey, because the more that we actually raise our frequency, and we raise our frequency to remembering who we truly are, we do our work, we do our healing, we remember who we are, and our body no longer needs to show us that. We no longer have to
wow.
be shown it, because we've already remembered who we are. So the weight drops off, our bodies change, our DNA. I mean, the guides were saying just recently that
Hmm.
our DNA is shifting to. I love your background, actually, because I was looking at that when I first came on, and I thought, wow, we're looking at this beautiful DNA, and we are actually transforming and remembering our multidimensional selves. So
Yeah.
as we're remembering that, we're becoming much more into our God self and our
Yeah.
source self, because we are multidimensional beings. So, answer to the question about our physical bodies, really what we're doing is we're starting to listen more. We're
Mm.
starting to listen. What is my body trying to tell me? What is the pain in my arm? What is, my back? What is my thyroid? Why am I having to take this medication? What am I trying to suppress? And I've done my disclaimer. So with medication, and I'd never tell anyone to stop or do, or it's not my job. But when we're taking something, we have to question why we're taking it. What is it that we're suppressing
Right.
in our
Mm.
truth of who we are? Oh, got a big hit from my guides there. And so, what is it that we're trying to suppress and not wanting to look at? Quite emotive, isn't it, when we think of it that way? But there's
Yes.
nothing in, a vial, there's nothing in a pill, there's nothing in anything that is our healer. We are the healer, but we just have to access that part of us that remembered that. And med beds, for example, there's a lot of stuff going around about med beds recently as
Mhm.
well. And I feel med beds are amazing for people that have forgotten that they are the healer, right? My galactic healing chambers, we'll talk about that later, but they are allowing you to step in and surrender and not think about it. Yeah. So it's like two different ways of thinking of it. I'm going somewhere physically because I need healing, or I'm going somewhere because I know my soul is guiding me, and I'm just going to let go and surrender. Yeah. A
Yeah.
remembrance of the times when we walked in Atlantis, when we walked in Lemuria and places like that. So we're just remembering all the time. But our physical body, it's one of my dearest bits of work that I do with people. I've helped many people. I don't know if they're here today in my community, but people that have had deep pictures of dis-ease. And what I've found is that when we go on that journey of
Mhm.
healing, there's always a reason why that body showed that message. And it's usually because we're not living our true mission.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Amazing. Every word so powerful. A lot of people are writing in about relationships with mom. Thank you for
Yeah.
everyone's sharing. Lydia, Janet, Kira, Martine, so many people, maybe just shining a light on that and saying, okay, this is an area I might want to work on or might want to
Mm,
focus on. I want to bring
yeah.
more love and understanding into. Well, since you did open the door on some of the chambers, people are
Okay.
writing in, what is, what's that? What is it? So, what are
Sure.
the chambers? Because you absolutely
Yeah.
are the forerunner in this, the only person I'd ever heard of who did this.
Mm.
What is it? Tell us about how they work.
Yeah. Well, it was channeled them a few years ago now on the Lion's Gate 88 portal. And I'm like, okay, why are you giving me this? What's this about? And because I'm a scientist, right? I like evidence of
Right.
everything. And I'm like, why are you showing me all of this? And they're like, well, these are galactic chambers, and
Mm.
it's wisdom that you were meant to bring forward in this lifetime, and you were meant to bring these through. So they channeled them to me. And so as they're channeling them to me, I'm creating them. And so we created these beautiful chambers where people can just their sole intent is I step into this chamber, if it's about money, abundance, whatever, and you step into the chamber, and as you're stepping in, you're releasing anything that stops you from aligning to the subject of the chamber. So if there's one of peace, for example, the guides will gather in there, and mostly ascended masters actually in galactics, and they'll gather in there and they will help heal, because you've set the intention, it's your soul intention, and you've set the intention that I want to have more peace, for example. So
Right.
you step into the chamber, it's remote, it's energetic, and you step in and they all come and they remove anything that gets in the way of that. So it could be past lives, ancestral. You spoke of dark energies earlier.
Mm.
So it can be dark energies. It can be, things like that. Cleansing the blood sometimes happens,
Wow.
cleansing. The other day, actually, in my community, I got shown a chamber, and it was to do with the shock that we hold in our bones and we hold in our spine and so on. So they come in and they release all of this so that you can align to that frequency that you've chosen. And so there are many chambers.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you can choose whichever chambers, and we are, part of what we're going to talk about later is we are going to give a few. So,
Oh man. So if y'all are like, yeah,
depending on the subject of it will depend on
yeah.
what your intention is, right? Yeah.
Talk about a surprise for now and into the new year. Imagine starting the new year with ascended masters working on you in a
Yeah.
chamber where you're just in this. So yeah, this is fantastic. What I want to do, if we can, maybe go
Mm.
to some callers.
Sure.
Is there any information you need or anything you want to share? I know we're gonna
I
kind of
don't
move
really,
quick.
yeah, I don't
So
really like to know too much. I mean, I would prefer not to. That's a medium in me. I'd rather know and not know anything.
well,
But
no.
they could be just for one question, maybe. So, say if somebody comes on and they want me to look, just say, could you please look at this? And I may get something completely different to what you've asked me about, but I'll tell you what I'm seeing, and I'll tell you exactly where the block is, and I'll tell you probably where it came from. Yeah.
Okay. That'll be awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So one question, and we're gonna try to move as,
Yeah. I don't need a
through as many
story.
people.
I don't need a
Okay.
story, because I think sometimes a story gets in the way. And the guides are all ready. They already know. So they'll be showing me the screen in a minute.
All right. So yeah, so we're going to be diving in. Go ahead and hit react and raise your hand. I told y'all to raise your hand earlier. I don't know why people didn't. And then
Because
we
you
are
guys
going to
are
get
greedy.
started. We've got a lot of people raising hand, but I know some
Mm.
people are like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me?" And so let me go to a couple callers here, and I'm just feeling in. I'm going to go
Hmm.
to Erica, Erica P. And Erica, if you want to turn on your camera, you certainly can. Otherwise, see if I can send you an
That'd be
unmute
nice.
request. That'd be nice. Okay.
It'd be
So, Erica,
nice.
if you
Hi.
can.
Hi,
Hi.
Erica.
Let me get a hat. Hold on.
Oh gosh. Everybody,
I've had it right now.
yeah, everybody get a
Anyway,
hat before we call on you. No, just kidding.
I don't want to take up time. I met with a healer yesterday, and he was supposed to do medical intuitive stuff with me, but he ended up spending the whole half hour working on entities that he said I had
Okay.
a lot of. So I was wondering if you still see any, and why do I have them?
And what was the reason for you going to see this person? What was your reason?
Whole issues. I have so many. It's a long story, but ultimately, I have cysts that started in my liver.
Okay.
Then they moved. I have some in my ovaries and like
Okay.
my Achilles, the crown of my head. They're kind of all over the place. So
Wow. Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
like to know the source of that, I
Well,
guess. Yeah.
scientifically, and before I look into your field, scientifically, when something like that happens in your body, it's basically the body dumping non-life threatening areas of the body. So what it does is the sodium and calcium gets dumped if there's a buildup of it. So that's the science of it. And then now I'm going to have a look at what the metaphysical bit of it is. So just bear with me a second. It's Erica, isn't it? Okay, show me Erica, please. Okay, so symbolically, they show me you as kind kind of like top hat and tails, right? Like a man in a wedding. And they're saying to me that there's a part of you that comes across as, having it all together, very smart, everything like that. And then there's another part of you that feels, thank you, very vulnerable in this world. Okay. So one part of you shows I can sort this all out, I can arrange everything, I've got it all going on. And then there's another part of you that's very vulnerable. So now before you say anything, I'm just going to ask them, what part is that? Show me. Mother. Okay. So this is mother, but it's grandmother. So it's like on the mother's side, your mother's side. And she's coming in here beautifully, actually. Thank you. And she's showing me here in your throat. So this is about your expression. This is about you truly. Would you say that you're not very kind with the words you use with yourself? Oh, it's making me cough. Would you say that you're not very kind when you speak to yourself?
I'm a very direct and honest person, so I would say people
Okay.
get offended by that, and that's more coming from the outside, not from me, really. But I
I
do
mean,
question, like, I need to be softer.
well, with yourself,
Okay.
So I'm not thinking about anybody else here. This is really what your soul, your essence is coming through with, is that there's a part of you that feels very, very vulnerable in this world. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. So we can just 1 minute. I mean, I know we're not doing a lot of healing on this bit here, but just put your hand on your heart and everyone can do the same. Okay. And I just want you to repeat these words if it feels right to you. And just say, I'm so sorry. It feels so hard to be vulnerable in this world.
I'm so sorry. It feels so vulnerable to be so vulnerable in this world. Hard to be vulnerable in this world. Yeah.
I'm so sorry you felt so vulnerable in this world.
I'm so sorry you felt vulnerable in this world.
Okay, so just feel what happened when you said that, when you said, I'm so sorry you felt vulnerable in this world.
I felt like a warm, sharp pain in my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what's happening is, that's good. That's good. It's a big, because I see it like a video screen. So I see that there's a shift with how you're presenting yourself now. It's just a second, of work that we can do just like that. But what we're doing is we're giving ourselves compassion, and we have no idea what part of us, whether that's an ancestral part, whether it is a childhood part, whether it's a past life part. What we're doing is we're just kind of acknowledging that part. And what the guides are very strongly, and your grandmother here was saying, is that part of you that felt so vulnerable in this world needs compassion. And then the outer side of you, the outer shell of how you present yourself to the world, there's no need then for the body to show you those messages. Thank you. Yeah. And also what they're saying is that those cysts and those lumps and bumps that, are showing up for you, they make you feel even more vulnerable. Does that make sense to you, Erica?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So when you look at anything that's happening in your body, and I hope this is helpful for everybody, but whenever you look at anything that's happening in your body, access the emotion of it. Because as you access that emotion, you're accessing that frequency of why it's showing itself to you. Okay, my love. But your grandmother's very much here, the one with the glasses. She's very much here and supporting you. So I hope in that 1 minute that helped you just a little bit to understand why that's showing up in your world. I don't see any entities around you, by the way. I would get shown that immediately. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate
that's
all
okay.
that. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you,
Grandma.
Erica. Thank you, Grandma. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing, Susan. That was
I just need to thank
just
her because she's still here.
and Grandmom and everybody. That was incredible. Incredible and very
Thank you,
hopeful,
Darius.
right? Thank you. Absolutely. I want to go to Rebecca, who's here. Rebecca, I can see you there. Let me send you an unmute request and I'll pin you here so everyone can see your smiling face. So, Rebecca A, how are you doing today? How can we? I love your background. I feel like you're floating and it's cool. I want to float
Wow.
up there.
Hi, Rebecca.
I don't think we can hear her.
We can't hear
Uh,
her, but I wonder if she can hear us.
Let me see. Could you turn on your microphone? Let me see. She's working with it. I've got her unmuted, so if you want to type in your question, Rebecca, too, just in case, you could do that.
She can
Yep,
hear us,
she
but we
can hear
can't hear
us.
her.
Do you want to type in your question? Maybe. Yeah, sometimes these microphones are so funny.
Mm. Is she typing in? I don't know. Let me just, anyway, let me just. Oh, I think we got. Why is it taking so long for my injuries to heal? Okay, let me ask one sec. Let me just have a look at you. Oh, okay. All right.
Oh yeah, she's showing her hand. It's like your hand. Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
y'all can't see this, but she's got a beautiful background. She's showing her hand and she's asked, why is it taking so long for injuries to heal?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing for you, Rebecca, and you can maybe type in the chat if you want to afterwards. What I'm hearing for you is, and sometimes these things are quite hard to hear, but I'm saying it from a place of love for you. But there's quite a lot of anger within you. There's quite a lot of old anger, my love, and what the guides are telling me and what they're showing me is that this was an opportunity for you to heal those parts of you that felt abandoned and betrayed. And I think you'll know what I'm talking about. And so, as you heal those parts of you, I'm so sorry you felt betrayed. I'm so sorry you felt abandoned. You could just do that with me, Rebecca, just in this 1 minute. This is a really quick thing to do, Darius. So it's good for everybody. So we acknowledge those emotions. I'm so sorry you felt, rejected. I'm so sorry you felt abandoned. I'm so sorry you felt left alone. I'm so sorry you thought you were doing it all on your own. Just feel into that, Rebecca. And that's why your body is showing this, is that your body's showing this because you needed to stop. You needed to take time to listen to your body, okay? And listen to what it's trying to tell you. And I'm clearly being told that these parts of you that felt abandoned and rejected and left on your own to deal with everything, this is the reason why. Yeah. And I have a lot of guides around you. They're all just rushing in here for you. So you have a lot of help. I don't see any relatives, but I see the guides around and you have a lot of help. And it's it's kind of otherworldly. So it's galactic frequency, which is great with the background that you have there, sitting up into the universe there, which is lovely.
Mm. So
Mm,
Rebecca, if you want to type in any thoughts, we'd love to hear. She's doing a great job. She's a trooper. She's doing a great job.
yeah.
Hmm.
And it's always hard, when something, isn't doing what we want it to do. And, we think, why isn't this healing? Why is this still coming into my world? What's going on? And actually, we forget to look at the emotion that makes us feel. What is it? Why do I feel that nothing works? Why do I feel I have to do this on my own? That kind of thing. When we can look at that, and the compassion that I just did with you guys is a very, very quick thing that we can do, and can just acknowledge ourselves. We're acknowledging that part of us that didn't get acknowledged, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
These are so deep, and I mean, it's like you go to these parts that it just
Mm.
they I don't know how to explain it. It feels absolutely like that's the crux of the biscuit. That's like the real meat of the coconut, so to speak. It's like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
you can feel even when you say that, it's like I can feel the density that's there for people, and I'm like, wow, that was it. That's it. So this makes a lot of sense, says Rebecca. Thank you for the insights. Yeah, I love this. I want to do this. We're gonna do kind of like a little mini QA, and then we're going to do a process here, embodying your God self.
Yeah.
But if you are someone who just typed in a question and maybe we didn't get to it, which I know there's dozens, you just want to retype it, we'll just go for like a quick answer or two. Um, yeah, she said, Rebecca just said, I was forced to deal by myself
Yeah.
for a long time, and this will help. How
Yeah.
does that fit into what you were seeing? Forced to deal but by myself. It sounds like she wasn't getting much
Well, it's
support.
like abandoned, rejected, have to do it all on my own. And that's really what I was getting. And if we think of a scale of, we have love on one end and when we have kind of fear on the other, if you look at where they are on a scale, we're working towards that place of neutrality. And
Mm,
anger is somewhere here as well. So we've got fear, disconnect, anger, and then we're working towards acceptance and love if we see it like a peace scale. And so that's where I feel, if we're working towards that love is truly remember who we are. We're truly remembering who we are. Yeah.
wow. Wow, just incredible. All right, let's do this. Let's get to the process, and then if you stay to the end, we're going to get to some rapid fire questions because I don't want to miss, and I'm sure probably y'all feel this way too. We're going to get a activation, a process to help us embody our God self and start the process of kind of what we've been talking about. So this is where you all get to experience a
Exciting.
little bit of this. Yeah, very exciting. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to slowly get started. I'm going to end the live stream for people on the social sites like YouTube, X, and Facebook. I do that, Susan. I like to make sure we have the right disclaimers on our site. I don't want people driving and multitasking and then something happens. These
Yeah.
energies are very different than stuff you find on YouTube and everywhere else. This
Yeah.
is really intensive stuff. So I want people to be safe. So we're going to cut the stream for everyone else. But if you're on Zoom, of course, you are totally good. And Susan, tell us really quick what you're going to be doing for us today, and then we'll
I
jump right
actually
in.
don't know at the moment. Yeah, I do. No, I do. I know, but I don't know if you know what I mean. So because I'm a channel, I invite, and I could already see the mantis beings coming in here, and they've recently been working with me stronger. So I actually do not know where they're going to take us, but what they're going to do is align us more fully to our God self. You might see me, Darius, you might see me kind of step back. So you'll
Yep.
see me and you'll notice because as I'm allowing them to come in, they'll speak through me, they'll do light language, they'll do all sorts of things. So I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm not out of here or anything. I know exactly where I am, but you might notice a
Mm,
difference. Okay. And
okay.
so if people haven't heard light language before, if they haven't, had tones or anything, then just open your heart to receive whatever you need. Okay.
All right. And if you were watching this and you want to get the full session, there'll be a link in the description or also in the chat. And it's uwealthrevolution.com/. Divine 30, Divine 30, and that's where you're going to find it.